writing, how to do some more business writing, including memo and report. So like last time we did some simple communication, like simple writing, such as like emails and letters. But today we're going to do some more formal writing. So it's going to be a bit more complicated, but I'm going to give you some templates so you can actually just find some information and fill them up. So it's not as complicated, but I think it's very important that you actually go over the process with me. All right, so we'll actually have a look at some of the writing styles as well. So I know that you're not very much familiar with the writing styles, and especially in English. So yeah, please give attention, give very careful attention. It's going to be very, very helpful when you do the business writing in particular. So let's start with Martin. So this is, I'm giving you an example of some very wordy expressions and how we can actually make it more conversational as well as simple and concise. I think it was 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I really emphasized that in business writing, the simpler, the better. The more concise you can write is actually the best. So, I mean, try to avoid using flowery expressions, and instead you try to use a simple, but you can be polite, but don't try to be too formal, because if you try to be very formal, then it's going to make your writing style very voluble, complicated and elongated. So we're just going to have a look at some examples how we can actually simplify some of the expressions into very concise and sort of conversational style form. All right, so Martin, you can read the stiff and dull expressions and how we can actually modify it into conversational style.
Okay. Conversational style, resisting the tendency to be formal, stiff and dull. Reference is made to your May 7 email, in which you describe to approve the procedure for initiating a claim.
Yeah, so you can actually simplify it into.
Please refer to your May 7 email, in which you tell how to file a claim.
Right, so you can actually write it in 2 lines. A lot of cases, I think it's because, Korean students or Korean people, they use ChatGPT or other writing tools to write down emails. So they tend to use very formal expressions. But if it's a formal expression, tend to be, long. And I told you that, a lot of these executives, they don't have time. So they actually skip it. It happened to me when we were communicating with foreign partners. If it's really long, they just skip it. So my boss, when I was working at Heist, he didn't like Korean people writing an email, especially in English. Especially if they were to translate Korean expressions into English and write them down in the emails, and it just makes the whole emails very convoluted. So I think I know that it's going to be quite difficult at the beginning, but just have it in mind that you try to simplify your expressions as much as possible. Try to be as direct and concise as possible. So if you can just remember this simple principle, then by practice you improve. Okay.
Enclosed here with is the brochure about which you made inquiry. Enclosed is the brochure you could request.
Right. The third example.
Okay. In reply to your July 11 letters, please be informed that your adherence to instructions outlined therein will greatly facilitate attainment of our objective. By following the procedure you list in your July 11 letters, you will help us reach our goal.
Right. We'll actually learn later that it's actually very good way to start your sentence with the subject you instead of I or we. But we'll learn about it later.
This is in reply to your letter of December 1st, expressing concern that you do not have a high school diploma and asking if a GED would suffice as prerequisites for the TAA training program. The GED you mentioned in your December 1st letter qualifies you for the TAA training program.
Right, so a lot of the expressions in the left-hand side is a direct translation of the original language, you know, like it can be in Korean or like other languages, but if you were to just translate it, especially like very formal language in a very formal and polite culture, like in Korea, you know, if you were to just translate the email contents into English, then it just becomes very long and like flowery. So, you know, try to make it as simple. And then as you can see, the simplified version has a lot of you inside. So it's very important that you actually think about how I can write down the new expression or new sentence with you. Or maybe starting with you or the you inside. Look at the last one.
I shall be most pleased to avail myself of your kind suggestions when and if prices decline. I'd gladly follow your suggestions if the price falls.
Right, so I shall be most pleased to avail myself of your kind suggestion. It sounds very polite, you know, but it's not a good business communication. Alright, and then, you know, cliche. We use a lot of clichés, so what are the examples of the clichés?
Cutting out rubber stamps. Rubber stamps, also called cliché, are expressions used by habit every time a certain type of situation occurs. A blessing in disguise. As good as gold. Back against the wall. Called a shot. Last but not least, learning the ropes. Leave no stone unturned to add insult to injury.
Right.
Other examples of rubber stamps in this category are the following. Please be advised. I am happy to be able to answer your message. I have received your message. This will acknowledge receipt of. Enclose, please find. This is to inform you that, in accordance with your instructions, thank you in advance for.
Right. So those expressions up there, I mean, they're like sort of not the colloquial expression, but clichés. And a lot of you guys are not non-native speakers, so I don't think you actually have to be mindful of those expressions. But these are actually typical expressions you use when you try to write a very formal and polite letter or email. You know, but what would be the way that we can actually improve? A lot of people actually say, oh, I have received your message, so in reply to your message, I will, you know, do blah blah blah. But instead of like saying this, you can just delete, I have received your message. It's very obvious that you're actually replying to the message that you have received, right? So you don't actually have to repeat. So don't write down, I have received your message at all, you know, because you're actually repeating yourself. And also, this is to inform you that, this is to inform you that your scheduled meeting is on 23rd of May. Then don't say that. You can just say, your scheduled meeting, your meeting is scheduled on 23rd of May. That's it. All right? So these are like expressions that people tend to use a lot. But if you second think, they are not necessary. So I'm not saying that you should not use them, but try to think of ways that you can actually delete them and then just go directly into the message. Okay? The next, you-viewpoint. This is important. Who's next?
You-viewpoint. We have received your report. We require that you sign the contract before we will charge to your account.
Right. So these are. So we could say we have received your report. If you were to translate or to convert it into a you-viewpoint, then we can simply say thank you for your report. And this is very important. So if you were to use you a lot, that actually converts or changes your perspective to the person that you're talking to or you're sending the email to, right? So it's actually getting you out of me-centered perspective to the other person's perspective, right? So trying to think of ways that you can actually write new sentences or new expressions with you inside, all right? For the second sentence as well, we require that you sign the contract before we will charge to your account. And you can actually translate into, for your protection, we charge you to your account only after you have signed the contract. So this way, actually, it gives the responsibility to the person that you're talking to or sending the email to. So that's why it's very important that you try to think of ways that you change the perspective to the other person, and trying to think of the action or the stuff that I want him or her, the person that I'm talking to do. So I mean, this needs a lot of exercise, but this perspective is very important, especially if you were to sort of progress in business like transactions or like contracts. All right, read on. Yeah, who's next?
You-viewpoint, thank you for your report. For your protection, we charge to your account only after you have signed the contact.
Contact, yeah. Focus on the reader's interest.
Focus on the reader's interest. The you-viewpoint put the reader's perspective first, even though you might still use words like we and our. If you do not pay by the 5th, you must pay a penalty. We are here to protect your investment, and we will do whatever we can to help. Put the reader at the center of things.
Right. So you-viewpoint always emphasizes what my message would be understood or comprehended by the person that I'm talking to. All right. So we always tend to think, if I were to say this, if I were to do this, this is going to happen, and you have to do this. But no. You always think about, how that person will react to your message, or how that the reader or the person that you're talking to will enact based upon the message that you're sending to. So we'll do some exercises, especially in report writing and memo writing, and I'm gonna go over with you if I can actually edit or to correct any of the sentences that you're writing. So we'll do some exercise on how to do you-viewpoint writing. All right, more examples. Who's next?
The you-viewpoint illustration. We-viewpoint.
Mm-hmm.
We are happy to have your order to
Hewlett-Packard?
Pepper products, which we are sending today by UPS.
Yeah, and then we can translate into you-viewpoint as
Your selection of
Hewlett-Packard.
Hewlett-Packard products were shipped by UPS today and should reach you by Saturday.
Right. So this is actually, it doesn't matter if I were to say, if I sent the product or not. It matters for the other person to receive it. That's what matters, right? So that's why it's actually a lot better to say, okay, you will receive the product by a certain date. Okay? Right.
We sell the Chicago Country set for the low price of $24 each and suggest a retail price of $36.5. With the cost of only $24, each Chicago Quarterly set you sell at $36.5 will bring you at $12.5 profit.
Right. Even here is actually illustrating the profit or the benefit that you receive out of this transaction, right? So this actually changes the whole perspective. It doesn't, it's important that we actually buy the product with the $24 and sell it like $36.5, but actually by illustrating or highlighting how much profit you get out of the transaction, it actually enhances the importance of the message. That's why having this you-viewpoint is very important, especially like in conversation or even in writing emails. Okay, go on.
Our policy prohibits us from permitting outside groups to use our facilities except on a cash rental basis.
Right.
Our policy of renting our facilities to outside groups enables us to make our full range of services available to your guests.
Yeah, this is a very subtle we-viewpoint to you-viewpoint perspective. So in here, because we're actually focusing on us, this actually emphasizes, this actually emphasizes the limitations. You know, you can actually use the facilities only you actually pay a cash for rental service, right? But here, by changing the perspective, this sentence emphasizing the benefits that you can get out of this this deal. So always try to put the other person or the reader first on the shoes, right? And then try to think about the benefits or try to think about the advantages that the other person get out of this message or out of this action or out of this transaction. So this is the change of the you viewpoint, all right? Don't focus on me. Like it doesn't. Like my boss always like used to tell me, like the director of the G school, he always. It doesn't matter whether you actually do this or that. You know, it doesn't matter at all. You know, what matters is like how other person perceives your action or your message. So that's the whole change of perspective. All right, read on.
We've been quite tolerant of your past due account and must now demand payment.
Right.
If you are continue to enjoy the benefits of credit buying, you must clear your account now.
Right. So it doesn't matter whether we are quite tolerant or not. No. It doesn't matter to the other person. So it says if you want to enjoy the benefit, you know, you must clear your account now. So you must, you know, clear your account now means you basically pay whatever has been due to you up to now. So you clear the account. You know, so you designate the action that the other a person or the reader actually has to do. Okay.
We have received your report of May 1st. Thank you for your report of May 1st.
Right. Go on.
So that we may complete our file records on you, we ask that you submit to us your January report.
Right.
So that your file records may be completed, please send us your January report.
Right. The last one.
We require that you sign the sales slip before we will charge your account.
Right.
For your protection, you are charged only after you have signed the sales slip.
Yeah, so even this examples is slightly different, you know. So the first sentence here, we require you to do something. You know, this is actually we're putting a lot of burden on you. But then by changing to the second sentence, basically the meaning is the same. But it's saying for your protection, you're charged only after you have signed the sales slip. So it's actually highlighting the benefits, you know, it's highlighting, you know, the advantages that you can, you know, get. So by slightly changing the focus, it actually gives the impression to the reader or the other person that it's for their benefit. So I know that this is quite tough, you know, it's a slight difference in nuance, and to obtain this needs a lot of training, but just having this awareness, I think is the first step. You know, try to think about how other people will react or will think about your message first before you actually write down any message to the other person, whether in writing or in memo. All right, so and then this is another very good example. You can actually say the same thing with a different nuance, and it makes a whole lot of difference. All right, who's next?
Negative, you failed to give us the fabric specification of the chair you ordered.
Right.
And positive, to complete your order, please check your choice of fabric when you close the cart.
Right. So the first sentence basically highlighted, you know, what has not been done, you know, and then you can actually say the same thing, you know, but with a positive note. You just, you know, tell the other person what needs to be done, right? Go on.
Smoking is not permitted anywhere except in the lobby. Smoking is permitted in the lobby only.
Right. It's basically the same thing, but then the second sentence is simpler, and then it just highlights where the smoking is possible. So a lot of people actually make mistakes by doing the double negatives. So there's a double negatives, not permitted anywhere except. So except is negative and not is negative, so double negatives. And basically, if you have if you have double negatives, it means positive, right? So don't use it. This kind of expression is too wordy. So just just say, okay, smoking is permitted in the lobby only. All right. Okay, go on.
We cannot deliver until Friday. We can deliver the goods on Friday.
Can you see the difference? The first sentence basically said we cannot do this. So I always have an argument with my husband. So he's like the first type. He always emphasizes on the negative side, like risk factor and stuff like that. But then I argue back. There's always the positive side. If you flip the coin, then there's always a positive side. So we have to find how we can achieve it or how we can actually do it. Instead of like focusing on the negative side. So it's a slight change of perspective always. All right, go on.
Chalk or nuts do not have the gummy, runny coating that makes some candies stick together when they get hot.
Right.
The rich chocolate coating of chalk or nuts stays crispy good throughout the summer months.
Right. You can go on.
You are wrong in your conclusion, for paragraph 3 of our agreement clearly states. Please read paragraph 3 of our agreement, which explains.
Right. So this is something that my professor always emphasized. So instead of like emphasizing the negative side, before she actually gave me a critical comment, she always gave me like comments on the positive side, right? Because that sort of smooth out the atmosphere, and it actually improves the trust sort of level that you have. So actually try to give positive comments or positive aspect at first, and then afterwards you can follow up with a negative comments or negative criticisms. But having this perspective and try to pinpoint or trying to highlight the positive sides first actually enhances the relationship making as well. So try to try to apply this principle in your conversation as well. All right. Okay. Go on.
We regret that we overlooked your coverage on this equipment and apologize for the trouble and concern it must have caused you.
Right.
You are quite right in believing that you have coverage on the equipment. We appreciate your calling the matter to our attention.
Yeah. Instead of like focusing on trouble and concern, you basically say we appreciate your calling. Right. So it changed the perspective. Right. Okay. Go on.
We regret to inform you that we must deny your request for credit. For the time being, we can serve you on a cash basis only.
Right, so here as well, we regret to inform you that we must deny your request for credit. So this is emphasizing the negative part. We can't actually accept what you request as of now. But instead of saying this, maybe for the time being it's impossible, but for the time being, we can serve you on a cash basis only. So you just focus on what's possible now instead of saying negatives. All right, go on.
You should have known that the camera lens cannot be cleaned with tissue, for it is clearly explained in the instructions.
Right.
The instructions explain why the camera lens should be cleaned only with a non-scratch cloth.
Right. Go on.
Your May 7 complaint about our remote control is not supported by the evidence. Review of the situation described in your May 7 email revealed what happened when you used the remote control.
Right, so this is actually complaint and also double negatives. So it means actually there's a positive component inside. So instead of like using the double negatives, think about the positive way that you can deliver the message. So these are examples, and I know that it sounds a bit like sort of daunting. How can I actually change? But again, it's the change of perspective. Instead of like focusing on the impossible and the negative, try to find a way or trying to find an expression that actually converts the negative, the impossible into positive and possible. There's always a way. And I think this is a very important skill. not only for your like conversation and in writing, but for your thinking as well. Like try to find the positive and try to find the possible within the business transaction or business relationship that you're engaged with. All right. Emphasis by position. This is linked with did I do this? Well, maybe in my morning class. Yeah, this is linked with the argument making. Who's next?
The beginnings and endings of a writing unit carry more emphasis than the center parts.
Right.
This rule of emphasis applies whether the unit is the message, a paragraph of the message, or a sentence within the paragraph.
So this is actually linked with the cognitive sort of psychology of the person. You know, that the human being. We actually can't give attention to every like single detail, right? I mean, we're tired and like we don't really have like enough attention span. So it happens to be the case that a lot of times we actually just focus on the first and the last part of the chunk. You know, that's linked with the human cognition, right? So say. If you were to write an essay, then what would be the most important part? The first sentence, and then the last sentence of the whole writing, all right? So that's the most important. And say if you were to write a paragraph, right? So if you were to write a paragraph of a body of an essay, then the first sentence and then the last sentence of a paragraph is the most important as well. And it applies to a sentence as well, right? In English, the first part of the English sentence is subject, right? The subject is the most important, and then we have the verb coming right after the subject, right? So in English case, I think the first and the second part, the subject and the verb, they are the most important, right? But then what's coming at the end actually matters as well because it actually gives the whole new meaning about what's going to happen. So remember this principle, whatever you write, whether it's the whole essay or the paragraph or say you're writing an introduction of the writing or just a few sentences, you know, whatever the length of the writing is, remember the first part, the first sentence or the first part and the last sentence or the last part is the most important. So one of the tactics that you can do is actually to write the first and the last sentence first. Don't just begin with the first sentence and you go no and then the end, right? So a lot of people, if they were to be very like effective and if they want to like just finish the writing as soon as possible, then you actually write down the first and the last sentence first, and then you actually fill in the blanks in the middle. That's one tactic that you can do. Because the first and the last sentence conveys the main message of the whole writing, right? So if you were to think, okay, this is gonna be my main argument and this is gonna be my main topic or the main theme of this writing, then I'm just gonna like focus on the first and the last sentence, you know, by actually pinpointing what your message or what your topic or the theme is. And then in the middle, you can just think about the evidence or you can think about other details to support the first and the last sentence or the part. So this is one of the tactics that you can use, but just remember this principle. And this applies to your email writing, like your memo writing, the report writing applies to like different types of writing that you can do. Because I told you that people are very busy and tired, so they tend to read the first and then the last, right? So that's why thinking about what you're gonna write in your first sentence is the most important, and then the last sentence is the second most important. All right, there are different channels of communication, and we're gonna see what channel that we have to use for which purpose. Who's next?
Selecting the best channel, face-to-face conversation, which is medium, best for persuasive, bad news, and personal message.
Right, so face-to-face communication is like here, you know, we just meet each each other face to face and we have a conversation. And when the issue is the most tricky and the most important, you always have face-to-face conversation, right? So whenever, I mean, if you were to deal with the most important deal, then you have to do it with a face-to-face conversation. So this is the most important channel that you actually have to have. Okay, the second video, is it a telephone? Yes, a telephone.
Telephone, best choice when two people cannot meet in person.
Right, so if you can't meet, then you can do the telephone, but then it's not as effective because you actually lose all the non-verbal cues. Your eye contact, your face expression, your body movements, it conveys a lot of meanings, right? But then, don't write emails, like talk. It's the second best way to communicate. All right. If you were to have a conversation about important matter. Okay. Third.
Video chat, best for group interaction and consensus building when members are dispersed.
Yeah, video chat, Zoom is another important communication channel. This is very effective if you were to have a meeting with a lot of people. But then, even the Zoom, I think it needs a lot of skills. Oh, I just came up with an idea of it. Maybe we can do the Zoom meeting, because I want you guys to learn. Okay, I'll think about the ways how I can teach you to do Zoom meetings. Because Zoom meetings are very, very important. But yeah, let me think about it later. Okay, the fourth, emails.
Email, best for routine messages that do not require immediate feedback.
Yeah. The caveat is it doesn't require immediate feedback. So if you need immediate feedback, don't use emails. Sending emails means that you actually give some time to the person that you're sending email to, and he or she doesn't have any obligation to reply immediately. Okay, IM is one of the chats. I mean, the online messaging services. I mean, but it can be like other stuff. Go on.
Best for short online messages that need a quick response.
Yeah, so if you were to require like quick response, then you can use actually online messaging services, but not for business purpose. I actually discourage using the online messaging apps for like business purposes. All right. 6, letters.
Letter for external messages that require formality, sensitivity, or a written record.
Right. So I told you the letters, they're actually sort of like, they can act as a semi-contracts. So that's why we have to be very careful when we write the letters, and it actually conveys some significance. I mean, the letters you actually write down in the letters, I mean, they actually have some like legal functions as well. So have to be very trained and have to be very careful in writing the letters. I don't know whether we'll have time to do the role play today, but I've prepared. It's actually a negotiation between a Japanese company and an American company on a sort of conflict or a deal, and we'll actually see how the letters they convey a lot of significance, and it's very important. Memo.
Memo to distribute inter-office information, especially when email is unavailable.
Yeah, so we'll actually do some exercise on how to write memos. So memos actually very effective within the organization. So if you want to distribute certain information among the members of the groups within the organization that you're working for, memo is one of the most important and most efficient ways to convey and distribute information. So we're going to do how to do this. And if you can write well memos, then you can actually convert it into an email, And converting memo into email is another good way to actually distribute or convey the messages to a lot of people within the organization. So we're going to learn how to do the memo writing today. Okay, the blog.
Blog, to share ideas with a wide internet audience and encourage responses.
Right, I think you're familiar with blogs. So blogs can be used, but then not a lot for like business purposes. But if you're an academic or intellectual who want to share your ideas, blogs are used a lot. report.
Report to deliver considerable data internally or externally.
Yeah, I know that a lot of you guys want to work for government and institutions, and report writing is very, very important because a lot of these like institutions, government institutions, like international organizations, they actually produce a lot of reports, right? So I'm just gonna let you know a very basic sort of structure of the report writing. I mean, the report writing is very complicated and it can span from like, I don't know, like 15 pages to 300 pages. So it can be as very, very long, you know. So I don't expect you to write that much, but I'm just gonna let you know what are the key components of the report writing so that you can get a sense of, you know, what it looks like. And you actually see when you read reports produced by UN or like affiliated organization, you actually see that they actually follow a similar pattern. All right, the last one, wiki.
Wiki to provide a repository for digital information that can be easily changed.
Right, so wikis, Wikipedias, I mean, you know them, right? You're familiar with this, so I mean, you use it for information sharing, but not as used much for business purpose. So I mean, there are like these diverse channels that you can use, and these channels serve different purposes. So getting familiar with the purposes and functions of these channels, and you know, choosing the best medium, best channel for your communication purpose is important. All right. So what are the important elements in planning and organizing business writing?
Identify your purpose and audience.
Right.
Determine the appropriate format and tone. Develop an outline. Gather and organize your information. Write a draft. Use plain language. Review and revise. Get feedback. Finalize and proofread.
Yes. So I told you that in whatever sort of medium you are writing or you're actually preparing, say you're making a presentation or you're writing a report or you're writing an essay, what you need to do first is to think about who your audience is. That's the most important step. So think really hard, you know, the people or the person who's reading the stuff that you're producing now. That's the most important step. And I told you that, you know, I mean, I've told you like different sort of formats, different structures for like different writings. You know, emails have a different styles, and you know, the letters they have different, you know, like structures, and the memos and reports that we're going to do today, they have different structures as well. So following the structures is very important, you know. So that's why I'm doing all these exercises just to make you get familiar, you know, that you guys have to follow these steps if you want to look professional, you know. And then, so having this structure ready, formatting ready is important, and gather information, and you actually reorganize, restructure the information that you've gathered in accordance with the structure of the writing that you're engaged with, right? And I told you before that, you know, like your first draft is meant to be rubbish. So I think for me, I actually spend 20% of my energy into the first draft. I don't actually think of it as like too significant. I just think that, okay, it's gonna be changed, maybe 70-80% of my whole writing will be changed anyway. So I'll just start. But I really want to emphasize, if you want to be really, really good at your writing, be that like email or letter, report, or like really like, I mean, literature, like whatever like forms of writing that you're engaged with, this is very important. Review, revise, feedback, and finalize and proofread. And these steps involve a lot of conversations with the other people, right? So review and revise, feedbacking, you know, you basically present your first draft, and then you get the opinions of the others to your first draft. And this is the most important part to improve your writing, right? A lot of Korean students focus on these parts, but I really want to emphasize this is more important if you want to improve your writing. So think of your first draft. Do we have any draft? Like say this is my writing, my first draft. I think of it as a prototype. I think of it as like, prototype. So I know that like more than half of it will be changed. And how can I do it? I read it with my friend. I read it with my colleagues. I read it with my professor. So if you finish your first draft as early as possible, you will have more time to discuss your first draft with the people around you, And that's a lot better than you actually spend 70-80% of your time on the first draft, right? So try to save your energy on writing the first draft, but use more of your energy to revise and feedbacking with your friends and colleagues and professors on the writing that you did. Okay, so we follow these steps. Okay, so this is something that we're gonna learn today. So memos. So again, memos are very, very effective if you want to distribute some information, or it's not an argumentative sort of style of writing. It's just to simply illustrate and describe the information that you want to convey to a lot of people within the organization that you're working to, right? So, and memos tend to be quite concise because its sole purpose is to distribute the information. So it has to be very concise and like simplified and like very structured, so that a lot of people can get the information as quick as possible. All right, who's next?
Memorandums or memos are a form of letter written inside the business.
Right.
Memos are necessary for important internal messages that are too long for email, require a permanent record,
Right.
demand formality, or inform employees who may not have access to email.
Right.
Within organizations, memos deliver changes in procedures, official instructions, and reports.
Right.
Short, simple memos are often written in casual or informal language, much like short, simple email messages. Longer, more formal memos are appropriately organized in the patterns appropriate for the longer, more formal message.
Right. So as you can see, memos are sort of in between emails and long letters. And as I said again, it's actually to distribute the information. So memos are used a lot in like big conglomerates and like military. The memos. It's a very structured form of writing, right? And it's a lot of cases is for internal purposes, and it's a lot of cases in hard copies. They actually distribute the memos in hard copies like this, right? So and they have it for record keeping purposes. So if you work in the government, if you're working in the Ministry of Health, then they want to actually keep the records of the findings or the conversations that you had on the issues at hand. And memos, they actually produce a lot of memos to keep stack of it, right? So that's why they actually follow a very structured way to write. All right, so these are the examples of the memos. Who's next? All right. No.
To all staff from John Smith, CEO, subject changes to company policies.
I actually sort of shortened this, but this is so this is a better way to. This is similar to email, all right? So we have two
To
from
Matthew Lennon, President,
right,
from Peyton
right, and then we have
Kubik, Public Relations, CC Kathleen Lennon, Chair, date June 1st, 2012 May meeting of Plant Safety Committee.
re means like subject, right? So these are the formats that you have to follow to start the memo, okay? Okay, can you read on the contents with it? So they actually follow, this is an example of the contents that you can write within here, all right? Within here.
As you are all aware, our company has experienced significant growth over the past year. As a result, we have decided to make some changes to our company policies to better reflect our current needs and values. Effective immediately, the following changes will be made. Flex time. Flex time, we will be implementing a flex time policy which will allow employees to have more control over their work schedules. This would include the ability to work from home when appropriate. Paid time off. We will be increasing our paid time off policy to provide more flexibility and work-life balance for our employees. Dress code. We will be updating our dress code policy to allow for more casual attire in the office. Performance reviews. We will be implementing a more frequent and transparent performance review process to provide employees with more feedback and support. Please review the updated policies which can be found on the company intranet and direct any questions or concerns to your department manager. Thank you for your continued dedication to our company's success. Best regards, John Smith.
Right, it looks like emails, but it's not, right? So they have a similar format, but the purpose is very different. So as you can see, it's actually to distribute the new information to the employees. It's actually talking about the changed code of, like the dress code, like certain policies concerning the paid holidays, paid time off, paid holidays, like flex time, so it's actually to give information on the changes made within the company policies. So the purpose is quite different, and as you can see, they're very they are mostly in bullet points, and then they start with the headlines, Okay, so what are the components within the effective memos? Who's next?
Writing effective memos. A memo is an internal business communication used to convey information within an organization.
Right.
To write an effective memo, start with a clear and concise heading and use a clear and direct opening. Organize the memo in a clear and logical manner with a professional tone, short paragraphs, and bullet point. Keep the memo concise, use proper grammar and spelling, and include necessary attachments or references.
Right, so it has to start with a very simple, clear title, and then also short paragraphs, like bullet points. Bullet points set like this. I didn't actually put the bullet points, but bullet points. And then here is actually a call to action. Basically telling what you need to do, right? All right, go on. Okay, so we're actually going into the business reports, but did I have the? Okay, I think this is. Okay, we are actually now we're going into the business reports, but we're gonna do the exercise at the very end about the memo writing as well. Okay, let's do the business reports.
Writing business reports. Determine the purpose and scope of the report. Organize your report. Include relevant data and visuals. Conclude with recommendations. Review and edit your reports.
Right, so whereas the memos are to mostly used to distribute the information, like the changes in certain policies or changes made within certain sector, it's to say what's going on, and you're supposed to do this and that, and business reports a lot of times it's analysis, it's doing the proper research, and then is based on the research, it's giving in-depth analysis on a given problem or a given issue. So a report tends to be a lot longer than the memos. Memos are sort of 1-2 pages long, but the reports, as I told you, it can span from 5 pages to 300-400 pages. UN reports are very, very long. But just having the structure, having the awareness of the structures of what constitutes reports, I think it's going to be helpful to you in the long run. All right, and then they always end with the recommendations. This is very important. Recommendations about what to do or what kind of actions need to be taken for the problem or for the issue at hand. All right, so this is sort of the elements that you have to include within the reports. Can you read? Whose turn is it? Oh. Hey, can you read, or can you read it from? Yeah. So these are the examples.
The purpose of this report?
Executive summary.
Executive.
Yeah, executive summary is very, very important. So it's a summary of the whole report, but why is it called executive summary? What do you mean by executive? Execution, like doing, implementation. 실행, executive summary. So executive summary basically summarizes what needs to be done, what actions need to be taken. Because a lot of cases, government reports, institutional reports, they're concerned with the policies. What kind of policies that need to be taken, what kind of policies that need to be reformed. The executive summary, it has a lot of doing component inside. Okay.
The purpose of this report is to analyze the financial performance of XYZ Corporation for the fiscal years ending December 31, 2022. Based on the analysis of financial statements and market trends, the report presents recommendations for future performance improvements.
Right. So basically, recommendations. I told you that it made the recommendations for the actions to be taken. So the summary includes the findings, the key findings of the research, and then based on the findings, you basically give the recommendations about what actions to be taken. So that's the format of the executive summary. Okay, and then after the executive summaries, you have the key findings part. Okay.
Key findings: revenue growth. XYZ Corporation's revenue increased by 8% in the fiscal years 2022. Which is a positive sign for the company. However, the growth rate has slowed down compared to previous year, which calls for attention.
Right. So key findings, you can actually include anything, but because this is a company example, revenue, the profit, for the company's revenue and profits are one of the most important components, right? So that's why I highlighted them. But then if you are to write a government report, then the key findings might include different elements. Okay?
Cost structure. The company's operating expenses have increased by 10%, mainly due to higher salaries and wages. The management needs to review its cost structure and find ways to reduce expense without compromising the quality of the products and services.
Right? Cost structure is important because the company is always trying to maximize the profit. And if you want to maximize the profit, you have to find a way to save cost. So cost structure is included for that profit maximization strategy. All right, and the market trends is always included in the key findings for the company report.
Market trends. The industry trends indicate that the demand for XYZ Corporation's products is likely to increase in the future due to rising consumer preference for environmentally friendly products. The company needs to focus on developing sustainable products to meet the growing demand.
Right, so market trends, it's always there if you were to write the company reports, but even for government and sort of institutional reports, market trend, I think most likely is included, because based on the market trends, you actually analyze a certain phenomenon, and then based on that, you actually make a prediction about what's going to happen. So market trend is most of the times is included as one of the key elements and key findings. Okay, and then so you actually do the key findings first, and then based on the key findings, you give recommendations. And for reports, for a lot of government and institutional reports, recommendation parts are the key. It's the focus of the entire report. So the findings, they are important, and it depends on like how well you do the analysis. But recommendation parts, because it concerns with the directly with the actions to be taken for the audience and the readers of the report. These are very important, and most of the times the people who are writing the reports, they spend a lot of time to devise recommendations. Okay?
Recommendation. Increase marketing effort. The company should increase its marketing effort to attract more customers and increase sales. This can be achieved through social media, content marketing, and email marketing.
Right.
Optimize cost structure. The management should review the cost structure and find ways to reduce expense without compromising the quality of the products and services. This can be done by streamlining operations, outsourcing non-core activities, and negotiating better deals with our suppliers. Invest in sustainable products. The company should invest in developing sustainable products to meet the growing demand in the market. This can be achieved by partnering with suppliers who use eco-friendly materials and investing in research and development to develop new sustainable products.
Right. So key findings included, how to save costs in order to maximize the profits, and that's why we have within the recommendation how to optimize cost structure. So what would be the ways to save cost and thus maximize or increase the profit? So we can find the specific ways to do this. And also the market trends are included in order to make a prediction, right? So we can actually predict what kind of products or what kind of services will be on demand based on the market trends. And so basically making a prediction here, all right? Conclusion.
Over the financial performance of XYZ Corporation for the fiscal year ending December 31, 2022 was satisfactory.
Yes.
But there are opportunities for improvement. The recommendations present in this report are aimed at improving the company's financial performance and ensure long-term success.
Right. So if you were to read any type of reports, like UN reports, I think I read migration reports produced by the UN agency, and it was like more than 300 pages long. But any type of formal government institutional reports, they actually have this component at the beginning, right? So they might have a main part which is 250 pages long, but they always have this component right at the beginning of the report. So they give you the executive summary. So a lot of people are very busy, so if they don't have time to read the whole report, they only read the executive summary, right? So that's the gist of the whole report. And then key findings, you basically present or explain in very concise form the key research findings. And then, so either they read the executive summary and then the recommendation. The recommendation is basically telling you what you need to do, right? So this is where the brain work is mostly invested. in terms of writing the government report. When you actually start working at the organization, like government or like think tanks or like UN, international organization, this is where they put the most efforts, because this is directly related with the policy changes. And then the conclusion is basically summarizes, based on the key findings and the recommendations. So this is the basic structure. It's not the entire report. Report can be very, very long, but this is the key component that needs to be included at the beginning of every type of report. And we're going to do some exercise of how to write this. Okay, so this is another example for a company report, and because it's a company report, it includes like sales revenue, sales volume, sales trends. But then, as I said, it always includes recommendations and conclusion. All right, so it has a slightly different format, but the key findings maybe include the sales revenue, sales volume, sales trends, the market trends, and then the recommendation and the conclusion. And after you write them down, you basically write the executive summary. And people will actually read only the executive summary most of the time. All right, who's next?
Use consistent formatting, use headings and subheadings, use lists and bullet points, use white space, use images and graphics, use color carefully, test the document.
All right, so report is a very formal writing. So it's different from the essay writing. And as you can see, it has a very bold headings and subheadings, very structured, very much. And then has a lot of white spaces in between, because if you don't have the white spaces in between, you actually get bored. It's long, And the images and graphics, within the reports, you actually include a lot of data, like a lot of graphs, a lot of images. So so if you can put as much images and graphs as statistical graphs as possible, then it's going to enhance the quality of the report. Oh, and the consistent formatting is very, very important. You have to be very, very consistent in terms of page number, the font, what kind of font you're going to use, and font size. You have to be very consistent in terms of styling, formatting. Okay, so this is the exercise that we're going to do in terms of memo and report writing, but we're going to have a 5-minute break first, and then come back and then start doing the writing together. All right, 5-minute break.